this review washing has destroyed the system because it's turned that authentic feedback into manufactured outcomes. When you get hosts actively coaching their scores, ratings stop measuring property quality and they start measuring coaching effectiveness.
Why is the short-term rental review system broken? What are the real-world consequences of dropping from a 4.8 rating to 4.6 on Airbnb? And what is review coaching? Humphrey Bowles from Truvi is the special guest on the Host Planner podcast, and he'll be answering all these questions and more on today's show. Humphrey, thank you for joining us on the Host Planet podcast. Why do you think the short-term rental review system is broken?
Well, James, I think this is something that really hasn't had enough airtime. So I'm so grateful to you for having me on. I mean, look, when you step back and look at it objectively, that's not even the word, objectively, like, the short-term rental review system has become almost comically dysfunctional. I mean, it's a bit like my language or my speaking, isn't it? Like, we've got a system where 94% of properties supposedly deserve 4.5 stars or higher. That's just statistically impossible. Like, a world's been created where everyone marks everything as perfect. I mean, that's totally nuts, isn't it?
It is pretty nuts. I mean, how have we ended up in a situation, and all of us who are hosts, we're all guilty of this, a 4-star review feels like the end of the world?
I mean, it really does. Like, when you get a 4-star review as a host, I mean, it's not okay, that was bad, let's try again. It's like oh my goodness, my business might be about to implode. I need to do something about it. And you know, in any rational rating system, 4 stars should mean very good, you know, something to celebrate. But we've created this bizarre reality where 4 stars is a business death sentence. Like, you know, the platforms have designed their algorithms to make anything below 4.8 stars virtually invisible. And if you drop to 4.7 stars because of a 4-star review, your bookings can actually plummet 60 to 80% overnight. So please don't get me wrong. I'm in no ways criticizing the reaction of property managers when they get the 4-star review. Like, I really not. Like, it is tragic, but it's insane that this has become a factor about whether or not your business survives or thrives or dies. And it's that serious. So it's totally right to panic about anything less than perfect. But it's when a 4-star review doesn't mean good experience, it means you just move me closer to financial ruin, that we start to need to have this conversation about whether that's healthy for the industry or not. Because this is not the only way. Platforms could have designed this differently. And, you know, you can reward consistency or genuine satisfaction, but really they've designed or chosen to design or build a system which really demands only perfection, because perfection then makes these marketplaces look like they're flawless. And that's the issue, I think. And then the knock-on consequence from that is then when you look at it from 10,000 feet, you see that we've trained hospitality entrepreneurs to actually fear honest feedback, because the 4 stars isn't a disaster because of your property quality. It's a disaster because of algorithmic visibility.
Okay, real talk now for all you hosts out there. You know that moment when your guest messages you again with, hey, what's the Wi-Fi code? Or you're staring at 5 different calendars, wondering if you've accidentally double booked the cottage. Yes, we've all been there. That's why here at Host Planner, we recommend Hostfully. It's basically your rentals control center. It handles bookings across all the big platforms, syncs your calendars to ensure there are no double bookings, automates guest messages, and even creates these really slick digital guidebooks that stop all the repeat questions. Honestly, it just makes your life easier and keeps your guests happier, helping you achieve those all-important 5-star reviews. And here is a little bonus. If you're a Host Planet listener, you can get $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Just hit the link in the show notes and use the codes PLANET500 for the PMS and HostPlanetGB for the guidebooks. And if you'd like a proper walkthrough, there's also a link to book a demo with Frank Bosey from Hostfully. He will show you how it all works. Less stress, more bookings, sorted with Hostfully. There are many things to unpack there. And there was one thing that sprang to mind as you were talking. I met a chap at an event a couple of years ago, actually, just after Host Planet started. And he had and he was very proud of it, an Airbnb rating as a host, 4.99. And one of the ways he achieved this was no matter what the guests did, how bad they were, if they trashed the place, whatever, he always gave them 5 stars. And there's method in that madness, right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, look, you don't know what you've been given by your host or guest until they've left you a review as well. So the system is blind. And generally, what I think we see in this space is what I would describe as review washing. So it's ultimately when hosts coach guests on how to rate. And most guests follow the instructions they're given because they don't want to leave anyone feeling a bit grumpy about the experience. And then the platforms collect this review wash data and market it as proof of excellence. I mean, it's great for them, isn't it? Like, everyone goes onto the platform and they see thousands of properties with 5-star reviews or 4.9. Like, that must be the sign of a healthy platform, mustn't it? Crucially, those guests, they can't tell the difference between genuine great properties and genuinely crap properties with this good coaching. So I don't think like that I would hate to suggest that anyone would be review coaching if they weren't and they genuinely did produce amazing guest experiences, because I totally believe that can happen. But for that consistency, I would suggest that actually there was some coaching going on, which is why, regardless of the state of the property, regardless of who the guests were, those consistent ratings and reviews were coming out.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we see on forums and people commenting on social media, hosts, they're afraid of getting a guest who's perhaps using Airbnb for the first time and doesn't realize that pretty much everybody scores everything 5 out of 5. And they come along, give the 4 out of 5 rating, thinking that it's a decent review. And of course, the host is really upset about it. Is it because 5 is just too low a number? Is that part of the problem?
I genuinely think that it's not the number that's the problem. For me, and I really hope, because there's so many more guests than hosts, that this doesn't go down wrong. But for me, it's the whole guest opinion circus that needs to change. You know, you've got a system, and by system I mean algorithm, that is driven by a complete chaotic guest-driven mess, where every review is coming from a completely different person with completely different expectations and rating behaviors. So one of the first things that I'd like to do is to try and help, create a system where there is no more random guests with random standards determining what a host business fate is. Like that just seems to me to be like the logical first step in how you go about combating this.
Your short-term rental business is evolving fast, but how do you keep up with the latest regulation, tax changes, and industry trends? The answer is to attend the House Planet Roadshow, which is coming to a city near you in 2026. This is the UK's premier event for holiday let professionals, supported by the Short-Term Accommodation Association, Price Labs, and the Women in Short-Term Rentals community. This is your essential opportunity for learning, networking, and expert insight. Starting in Cornwall on the 5th of February, you'll spend a full day mastering compliance, optimizing your revenue strategies, and sharing lessons learned with your peers. After Cornwall, we'll be in Portsmouth on the 4th of March and London on the 23rd of April. That's the day after the Short Stay Summit. Later in the year, we'll be heading to Nottingham, Bath, Chester, and Edinburgh. So don't navigate the complex 2026 market alone. Learn from the leaders driving the industry forward and shape the short-term rental conversation in your market. Tickets are just £40 each and available now from our website. Head to houseplanet.club for further details. We'll get on to exactly what needs to be done a little bit later, but I think we should probably unpack exactly what happens. And Airbnb is the obvious example here. When you drop from maybe 4.8 to 4.6, and I know you've touched on it a little bit with the algorithm and that kind of thing. Another thing that came to my mind is that I think when you drop below 4.8 on Airbnb as an individual host, you can no longer be part of the co-hosting community on Airbnb as well. So what happens to property businesses when they do make that little drop down to, say, 4.6, 4.5?
Sure. And let's just discount any participation trophies, because participation trophies are not how you build a real sustainable business. So the fact that you lose superhost status, who cares? Does not matter. So the brutal answer is you essentially get digitally exiled. So you drop down to 4.6, 4.5 stars, and you don't just lose customers. The algorithm is basically set up so that you get banished from the platform. So one day you can be thriving, and the next day you are totally invisible, chucked back down to page 130 on the rankings. And this could come from one guest who thought 4 stars meant pretty good, which, by the way, it does. It means pretty good. So let's not give the guest too much, jip. And instead of, banish this person from the platform. And the digital, deportation because someone misunderstood the survey or how the game works is exactly why these hosts have been compelled into review washing and coaching. Because, every host has to obsess over it. It's not a minor influence. It's a massive influence. Will this guest review send me into exile? Like, holy crap. Like, this is like hospitality by survival mode. This isn't just, that's okay, the next one will be great. This is literally like life-changing, altering things, which is out of a host control. So once you're banished, okay, it's really difficult to get back. It's not impossible, but it nearly is. Because the platform keeps you listed whilst making you invisible. It's like being exiled, isn't it, to a desert island while your name stays in the phone book. You're there, but you're not really there. And you as a host, you didn't break any rules. You just lost a rigged lottery where the platform controls who gets to exist and who doesn't.
So there's the impact of going from 4.8 to 4.6. But what about the impact if you get a horrendous review, a 1-star review?
I mean, it happens, okay? It really does happen. And really, the only realistic thing that you can do is to look to challenge that review for all it's worth. But good luck to you, because the platforms are set up in order to essentially help the guest. And unless they've broken rules, and there are rules that guests need to follow, which you might be able to use against them, you're going to be in trouble. So it's the ridiculous thing, James, where I'm really anti review washing because I think it devalues the system. But I'm also really anti being dependent on one platform for all of your reviews. And therefore, you have to enter into the spirit of review washing, because if your competitors are doing it and you're not, they are going to gain a competitive advantage over your business. And therefore, you have to go down to the lowest common denominator, which is also then coaching your guests. So I completely get it. But I think that the person who it harms the most is the guest. And we're coming up to Christmas. Maybe it's time that we call a Christmas time pact on review washing to just let the ratings go to where they should be across the industry. And if everyone did it at the same time, which by the way, they won't, then potentially that would actually lead to a much more transparent and valuable rating system within short-term rentals.
I spoke to Duran Mayassad from Plum Guide a while ago on the podcast. And on Plum Guide, they try to have brutal honesty in the listings and say, look, these are the little niggles that are wrong with this property. And then once the guest has been, they'll go back to the guest and say, look, tell us anything that was wrong with this property. Do we need to be closer to that with the review system than what we have?
I mean, I love that. And if that's what the Plum Guide are doing, then you like kudos to them, because they're trying to make something real and transparent. And they're not just trying to do something in order to make everything appear perfect. Because what you've just explained is almost like the opposite of review washing. So look, when you're coaching, what is review washing? What is review coaching? What is the whole thing? When you're teaching guests how to rate you, really, and in so many cases before they've even experienced your property, you're just going to create a system where everything is perfect. And if everything is perfect, nothing is. So when hosts leave messages like, we hope you had a 5-star stay, or if anything might prevent 5 stars, let us know immediately. This has got to such a sophisticated level, James, where people build it into their entire guest journey. You have welcome books explaining the rating system. You get put up on walls. If you don't leave me 5 stars, I'm going to lose my job. Checkout instructions about helping small businesses. And then, you've got the follow-up messages all fishing for the perfect scores. And I don't think it's too far to say that this review washing has destroyed the system, because it's turned that authentic feedback into manufactured outcomes. And when you get hosts actively coaching their scores, ratings stop measuring property quality and they start measuring coaching effectiveness. And that's the warped reality of where we've got to. We're measuring a host's ability to coach their guests, nothing to do with their stay. And, if I can take a 3-star property and review wash it, so a consistent 4.99 ratings, the system's not measuring the property anymore. It is measuring my manipulation skills. And that leads to this massive artificial inflation.
I think as well as hosts and property managers, when we travel and stay at a short-term rental, we're probably guilty of being on the other side of it, because we know how important the 5-star review is. And even when we've had a stay, which has been okay, and it's probably worth a 3 or a 4 in the real world, we give it 5 because we think, we sympathise with the host. Clean slate then. Let's imagine you're creating the new review system tomorrow. What does it look like?
So I think this is one of the hardest questions that remains to be answered in short-term rentals. And I'm obviously going to give you I'm going to give you my opinion, okay, on what I would do. There are going to be so many other people's opinions, and do you know what? I just love to hear them, okay? So I really want people to engage with this and to give their opinions, because I don't think I'm 100% right. I'll take 10% right. But if other people out there can add the other 90%, maybe between us all, we can actually build something that is valuable. So I alluded to it earlier, okay? The first thing I do would be to scrap the whole guest opinion circus. And I would move to, and I'm going to shock you here, a platform determined quarterly ratings based on actual performance data. So number one, okay, get rid of that chaotic guest-driven mess where every review comes from a completely different person with completely different expectations and rating behaviors. No more random guests with random flipping standards determining anyone's business fate. I then introduce a platform-determined quarterly ratings based on performance within actual categories, okay? So I'd introduce actual categories. So your $75 budget property competes with other budget properties for budget travelers, not against a $400 luxury villa for the same algorithmic visibility. Now, I think this solves the core insanity. Right now, you could get destroyed by a luxury traveler who expected champagne service at your budget listing, or get false praise from someone who's never stayed anywhere decent before. Neither tells you anything about your actual performance. So with category specific competition, budget properties optimize for cleanliness and value. Those would be my suggestions. Luxury focuses on experience and amenities like hot tubs. And then you got your mid-range perfecting for reliability. So everyone plays a winnable game within their market instead of this ridiculous perfectionist theatre. Now, I believe the result would create honest differentiation instead of review washing towards fake uniformity. So your guests find what they're actually looking for. Hosts build sustainable businesses instead of performing for algorithms driven by random flipping strangers' opinions. Like if you stayed somewhere, if I stayed somewhere, if my mum stayed somewhere, everyone would leave a different review. And then this creates a hopefully rational business assessment instead of letting people with these different standards and expectations randomly determine whether or not your business survives or not. And even if some of that is like, well, that's never going to happen, it is so much better than this current chaos where every review is essentially incomparable because every reviewer is fundamentally different.
Do we need something closer to the older hotel system? And I say older hotel system because when you go on platforms like booking.com, it seems like every hotel is a 4 or 5 star. It feels like they've got actually a similar problem to what we have in short-term rentals. And in relation to having your property in a certain section, whether it's luxury, budget, mid-range, from the outset, should the host or property manager choose where they want to go, or should it be determined by the guests and perhaps the platform with their algorithms deciding where your property should sit in these different buckets?
I mean, I think it's a conversation between the two, and I think it's a learning between the two. And I think ultimately it comes down to profitability. So you may find you are more profitable sitting in a budget section and providing a brilliant, clean, sustainable rental than going in a luxury centre because you don't have a hot tub and therefore can't provide the amenities, and therefore you're always going to get a 4-star review. So what's better, 5-star budget or 3-star luxury? The great thing is I don't have to answer that, James. I don't. That's down to the wonderful property managers out there, and depending on how they want to approach this. The point is, it creates a clear playing field, and a playing field where guests are going to be able to go and find the right accommodation for them. So take your budget travelers, okay? They search by price. That must be, by definition, what they're looking for. So when they go and find something within their budget, rated at 4.8 stars, they think they found great value, don't they? They go, this is a win. But then they arrive to 3 bent forks, 2 dull knives, and 1 saucepan, and a beautiful sign on the wall saying, if you don't leave me 5 stars, I'm going out of business tomorrow, so please can you leave me 5 stars? Like, the 5-star rating didn't mention the kitchen is actually a mini fridge with a hot plate, or that fully equipped means 1 plate per person if you're lucky. So this, for me, is actually where these marketplaces, these platforms, have abdicated responsibility. Because what should a $75 per night property actually provide? And how do you know that you're providing it? Is it working appliances? Is it complete place settings? The platforms don't really say. They just let hosts review wash broken functionality into excellent hospitality. So your budget travelers think they're getting excellent value, but can't even cook pasta. Price tells you the cost, but fake ratings don't tell you where the basic human needs are actually met within the short-term rental, or indeed the hotel system, or indeed other marketplaces which exist within the sharing economy or collaborative consumption, or whatever we're calling it at the moment. And for me, the system fails by not distinguishing between great for the price and actually has functioning amenities you need to survive.
It's interesting, isn't it? Obviously we have the OTAs, and the niche OTAs tend to focus on luxury properties, the luxury side of the sector, and maybe bigger properties as well. It's interesting we don't have a niche budget OTA. I don't know of one anyway. And then there are maybe other niches which focus on maybe corporate stays or things like that. Is this because a lot of luxury property owners and managers don't want to be lumped in with the crowd and don't want to have the situation that you have of basically being compared to a not very good rental down the road?
I mean, look, the short answer, the TLDR, is no. There is way more cash to be made from the luxury end of the market than there is from the budget. The budget is so much harder to execute. It is way more exposed to trends and inflation, and unlike the luxury side of things. So I think that there's luxury has always been, if you can get it right, there's a lot of cash to be made from it. I think that if I was a luxury property manager, though, I would be absolutely furious that some of the, I can't swear, like goose poo type listings have the same rating as mine. And look, I'm on their side. These guys, and there's a few brilliant examples out there. They invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into genuinely exceptional properties, designer, everything, concierge services, the best locations. And then on the next listing, you're sitting next to some basic apartment with IKEA furniture, and you both got the same, 4.9 rating. How does that work? It shouldn't be. It's like putting a Michelin-starred restaurant next to McDonald's and giving them both 5 stars. From a guest perspective, they look identical in quality. They really do. But when you turn up and stay with them, it's a completely different world apart. So yes, I would expect these luxury operators use the luxury OTAs to differentiate themselves meaningfully, because they can't do it if it's a catch-all platform. And their genuine excellence for sure will get buried in the same review washing system as coached up mediocrity. Yeah.
which other platforms which focus on reviews can we learn? Or which other platforms which have a lot of reviews can we learn from? I'm thinking Amazon reviews here. Is there somewhere that's doing it a lot better?
The point that I would focus on, okay, is that take your example of Amazon, okay? So their product ratings are genuinely spread across the full spectrum. So you're going to see products with 2 stars, 2.5 stars, 3.8 stars, 4.2 stars, and totally legitimate, 4.8 star products for your fluffy stitch and Christmas hoodie and all that kind of thing. And when something has 4.8 stars on Amazon, like, you genuinely do actually believe it, because you've seen plenty of honest lower ratings. And I agree with you on hotels, but I still think you can group 4-star hotels, 4.8, 5-star hotels, and you can see that the quality is a little bit different. So for me, the key insight, okay, is that these systems allow the full range to be used meaningfully. So a 3-star rating doesn't destroy the business. It actually describes the experience level. And I believe that short-term rentals could adopt a cleaner model which would stop this review washing, because ultimately we want guests to come and stay with us with confidence. And that means there's got to be confidence in the properties that they're booking. And when platforms prioritize honest differentiation over fake uniformity, everyone wins. The guests can find what they actually want, and hosts can compete fairly within their category. And that actually makes ratings mean something again. Like, that's quite exciting.
Trust is such an important issue, isn't it? I mean, it's funny because I'm the kind of cynical person that if I look at something, whether it's a short-term rental or anything else, and it's all 5 stars, I don't really trust it. If I see a few negative reviews, but the vast majority great reviews, I'm going to trust that a lot more than one that's 100% 5 stars. Maybe that's just me. I think that's a lot of people as well. So your goal then is better than beautiful lies. So let's finish with, what's the one mindset shift or action that you want hosts themselves to take right now to reclaim authenticity and differentiate their truly exceptional properties?
I mean, if I'm only allowed one thing, that makes it a very difficult question. So look, I think I need to go basic, okay? And I'm not going to encourage review washing. I'm not going to discourage review washing. I'm just going to say we live in the climate that we're in. And you need to work and do whatever is best for you and your business. So stop optimizing for the platform and start optimizing for the guest sitting in front of you. Now, I know that sounds simple, but it could actually be quite revolutionary in this review washing ecosystem. So most hosts have become so focused on gaming the algorithm, i.e., will this get me 5 stars? How do I coach this interaction? That they've actually forgotten the fundamental question of, what does this specific guest actually need right now? So the practical action that flows from this is you start treating every guest interaction as if you're building a direct relationship, not just avoiding a bad review. So, ask yourself, would this guest book directly with me next time? Not, will this guest give me 5 stars? Because when you make that mental shift, everything changes. Instead of coaching for ratings, you start having genuine conversations. Instead of managing expectations downwards, you actually kind of give yourself the best chance of exceeding them naturally. Instead of like fear-based service, you provide value-based service. So I think that would be the one thing. So stop kind of like chasing these perfect scores, start building perfect relationships, because those are better than the beautiful lies that otherwise you're creating and then telling yourself. And do you know what? It will open up windows into how you can genuinely improve your hosting as well, which is something which will then benefit your business. And that doesn't have to benefit the platform if you don't want it to.
It boils down to exceptional hospitality, so focus on that. I love it. Humphrey, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us on the Host Planet podcast.
Such a pleasure, James. Thanks for having me.
Great to chat to Humphrey Bowles there about reviews. Let us know what you think. Is the system broken? That's just about it for today's episode. Remember, this podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Hostfully, which is trusted by short-term rental professionals across the globe. As a Host Planet listener, you get 2 exclusive offers. $500 off onboarding for Hostfully's property management software. Just use the code PLANET500 and 30% off digital guidebooks for life. Use the code HostPlanetGB. To grab these deals, click the link in the show notes or head to hostfully.com. For more free education, tips and trends from the STR industry, visit hostplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. That's it for today's episode. Until next time, happy hosting.